We've never been famous before, sir. Walk us through. Yeah, okay. It's good practice. What are you guys going to ask, or how's it going to go? What, do we know?
Yeah, so you're way behind.
Shut up. Oh, sorry. First timer. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, that part. Yep. Over there. Settle in. No. Down. Does that work?
Lights are really bright.
We need to find a countdown.
Just want to make sure we start like right on time for the people watching the stream, so nobody's off guard by it. Otherwise, we'll start early. Yeah.
Punctuality. In the media.
All right, good morning. I'm Dave Boxham, Communications Specialist with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. Thank you for joining us today. The holiday season is here. The excitement and busyness are ramping up, and the snow is coming. Safety on the road is top priority. Today you're going to hear about statewide traffic safety efforts to keep people safe this holiday season. You're also going to hear a very powerful, personal story about why it's so important to never, ever drive impaired. Speaking today, we have Office of Traffic Safety Director Mike Hansen. We have Colonel Christina Bogoyevich, Chief of the Minnesota State Patrol. And we have Alan Olson with the Woodbury Police Department. After they speak, we'll open it up for a brief Q&A. If you have any questions, just please identify yourself and the organization that you're representing. We'll also be emailing out a news release about the holiday campaign, so you'll have more information for that. With that, I'll now turn it over to Mike Hansen.
Thank you, Dave. And again, good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Hansen. I have the privilege of serving as the Director for the Department of Public Safety's Office of Traffic Safety. I would like to thank all of you for joining us this morning, both in person and online. We are here today to talk about a vital and critical extra DWI enforcement campaign that starts this Thanksgiving weekend and will run through the end of the year. We're here today because no one should have to suffer from another completely preventable crash that is related to an impaired driver. But with the recent weather forecast, I think it's also important to say that protection against an impaired driver also works against bad weather. Mainly, plan ahead and stick to it. Know what you're driving into and make a plan that takes that into account. We have a major holiday this week. It's going to be one of the busiest weeks of the year, all year on Minnesota roads. But it only matters if all of your family is able to gather together to celebrate this Thanksgiving weekend. So plan ahead, watch that weather forecast, and above all else, always drive unimpaired. Alan is here today, and he will tell you, even when you survive a crash, the long-lasting consequences can and do turn your life upside down, not only for you, but for your entire family. I am very grateful that Alan is here today and that he is willing to share a really horrific tale and a tale of a long, difficult recovery. It's a story we shouldn't have to tell, but one that happens far too often still to this day everywhere in Minnesota. Here's some statistics to keep in mind. From 2020 to 2024, nearly 2,000 people were seriously injured in impaired driving related crashes in the state of Minnesota. 668 people were killed as a result of an impaired driver in the state of Minnesota. That's why starting this holiday weekend through the new year, we will have extra law enforcement out there actively patrolling Minnesota roads, ready to stop impaired drivers from injuring and killing people needlessly and in preventable ways. Be that sober ride. Be that hero that saves someone's life, and make a commitment this holiday to make sure that you are ready to provide that safe, sober ride home for friends and family who need to have that service made available to them. It's a gift that has no cost, but it will and does save lives. And for those drivers who do not hear our message today, be on alert. Our law enforcement partners are completely committed to making this a safe holiday season for everyone. If you talk to any of the troopers, officers, or deputies who are out there working these extra shifts between now and the end of the year, every one of them has a why they do that. And most of those whys are directly related to something horrific and tragic that they had to take care of as part of their job. They are absolutely 150% committed to making sure that if an impaired driver makes that fateful decision to get behind the wheel, they go one place and one place only, and that's to jail. I want to thank Alan for coming today and thank everyone who makes the right choice this holiday season and commits to driving sober. With that, I'll turn it over to the Colonel for some additional remarks. Colonel.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christina Bogoyevich, and I have the honor of serving as the Colonel of the Minnesota State Patrol. As Minnesotans head into the holiday season, we know this is a time filled with family, travel, and celebration. And today, with our first winter storm of the season rolling in, we're reminded just how quickly conditions on our roads can change, and how important it is to make safe decisions before ever getting behind the wheel. Our troopers know what winter brings: slick roads, longer stopping distances, reduced visibility, and unpredictable conditions that can catch even the most experienced drivers off guard. When you add impairment, whether from alcohol, cannabis, or certain medications, you're stacking risk on top of risk. Reaction time slows, judgment fades, and in snowy conditions, the margin for error disappears. You just heard Director Hansen talk about the scope of the problem and the enforcement efforts beginning this week. I want to focus on what those numbers truly mean to the troopers and why this work matters so deeply to us. When someone chooses to drive impaired, the impact reaches far beyond a traffic stop. Troopers see the aftermath on the roadside. They see families waiting for answers and survivors trying to understand what comes next. These are moments people carry with them long after the scene is cleared, and our troopers carry them too. That's why our commitment is simple. We will show up, we will respond, and we will do everything possible to protect everyone who travels on Minnesota's roads. Not because we want to arrest people, but because we know what can happen if we don't act. This enforcement is about preventing another family from living through what Alan and Jacob experienced this summer. Their story is a powerful one, and a powerful reminder that an impaired driving crash doesn't end when the sirens stop. Recovery is long, pain is lasting, and the ripple effects touch every part of a person's life. As the snow falls and the holidays approach, I'm asking Minnesotans to look out for each other. Your choices matter, your planning matters, and your willingness to act could be what keeps someone alive. There are clear, easy things you can do to prevent impaired driving. Plan your ride before you take your first drink. Line up a sober driver, use rideshare, or schedule a pickup. Planning ahead takes the pressure off later. Be the one who steps off. Offer to be the designated driver. Be that ride home for a friend or family member. It's one of the simplest ways to save a life. If someone is about to drive impaired, intervene. Take their keys, help them get a ride. A tough conversation in the moment is always better than the tragic consequences that follow. If you see dangerous behavior on the road, call 911. You could be stopping a crash before it ever occurs. And remember, impaired is impaired. Alcohol, cannabis, THC products, and other drugs and certain medications. If it affects your judgment or reaction time, you shouldn't be driving. Alan and Jacob didn't deserve what happened to them. Their experience is a painful reminder that one person's choice can change another family's future. Their courage is being here today shows true strength and service to the state. With that, here's Alan Olson of the Woodbury Police Department to share his story.
All right. Thank you, Mike and Colonel. My name is Alan Olson. I've been a police officer for 24 years and currently with the Woodbury Police Department. Mike kind of hit on it. A big part of it was the why. You know, I think back in my career of when I first started, and a few months in, I figured out my why. My why was watching a 16-year-old die from a drunk driver. That set my path for the last 24 years. And when I've talked to new recruits and other people I work with, I've always told them, I said, I know my why. I know I come out here. I know I have the drive I have. And it was drunk drivers. To speed it up, August 11th of this year, my son and I were in a four-wheeler slash F-150 accident that changed us greatly. The other driver made some choices about drinking alcohol, driving, things of that nature that has changed not only my life, but my son's. He impacted us on the side of the four-wheeler where my left leg was. That ended up taking my left femur and pushing it into and through my left hip. Since then, I've had surgeries. I was in a wheelchair. Moved on to being in a walker. Took 2 crutches. We're down to 1. We're progressing. And a big part of it is people understanding that it isn't just me, it's the family. I mean, they stepped up. They've been helping me with small tasks of just putting on your sock or your shoe. I gotta depend on them for that now. Going back to my son Jacob, he ended up with a broken left arm, 3 tendons that got tore. He's had 2 surgeries. He's got a limited mobility of his hand. So going back to the DUI part, we keep hearing stories over and over again about people dying from it. Well, those are the easy ones, I hate to say. It's the ones where now I'm going to move on with the rest of my life, whatever that may be, 20, 30, 40 years. Always trying to recover from this. You know, 5 years from now they talked about I might need a hip replacement. So those prolonged things. So your 2-minute decision before you leave your festivities this week and decide to get in a car can change not even yourself, but the rest of us and our families. And some of us that have gone from the part of trying to prevent that for your families, well, here we are with it at my family. So please, like they said, rideshare, Uber, Lyft, friends, I don't care, walk home. Find some other means if you can today. So I think we are going to open up to questions, I heard.
You bet.
Okay, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Now, before we finish, I'd like to extend my thank you to Alan and to your family for having the courage to be able to stand up and tell a very difficult story. I think we will all agree that events like happened to your family are completely preventable. It comes down to everybody making good, responsible choices. As the Colonel said, impaired is impaired. Whatever you happen to be using over this weekend and over the rest of your life, whatever it is, make those decisions that are safe for you and for everybody else that you're sharing the road with. Now, at the Office of Traffic Safety, we have a variety of programs that recognize really, truly outstanding public service in our law enforcement communities, with all of our law enforcement partners, as well as with all of our stakeholders out there. One of these is a challenge coin that we have custom made every year, or every couple of years, as the case may be, that recognizes somebody who has made a substantial contribution to public safety and to traffic safety across the state. Now, if you're familiar with challenge coins, oftentimes they are simply traded back and forth between those the entities that have them made up for their organization. At the Office of Traffic Safety, ours are a little bit different. Ours are always earned. Now, Alan, you probably will agree with me. This is probably not one of those things that you or Jacob or your family wanted to earn, but I do have a coin for both you and for Jacob for showing the strength and your commitment to your community and to helping us prevent these things from happening. So, as we typically don't, like that. Thank you, sir. All right, and then with that, folks, we will open it up to questions then. I got to make sure I heard the question. You're asking, are there tactics or strategies we've used in the past that have proven to be successful? I think it's a larger picture look at that. I think societal attitudes have really changed and evolved over the last 3 or 4 decades. When I started in law enforcement several decades ago, Mothers Against Drunk Driver was really becoming a large and influential organization, and they still are today. And if you look, back in the 1970s and 1980s, over half of all fatal crashes involved an impaired driver. We've made progress because now it's about a third, but that is completely unacceptable, especially, as Alan mentioned, there are too many options out there. There is no excuse for somebody to wind up in the back of a squad car, an ambulance, or a hearse this weekend or any day because you can make those decisions that don't put you behind the wheel. Make a plan, stick to it. Have a ride, use a rideshare service, place to stay, things like that. Did I cover what you were looking for there? Okay. Right. The question is, are there resources that people can use if they're faced with a situation where somebody may make that fateful decision to drive while impaired? Well, as Dave mentioned in the opening, having that hard conversation is where you start. And sometimes those are much more difficult than you would imagine. You're dealing with somebody who's impaired. They're already not thinking in a coherent manner. But you need to do whatever it takes in order to prevent somebody from getting behind the wheel. Whether it's that conversation that you have, convincing them to take advantage of one of the alternatives that we've talked about. If this is a life-threatening situation, call 911. If somebody does make that choice and they decide to get behind the wheel when everybody knows they shouldn't, call 911. The license plate, make and model of the vehicle, direction of travel, all that kind of thing. We have to really put all hands on deck if we are going to prevent these from happening. It's not going to be a fun experience for anybody if it goes to that point, but it is something that is necessary. We have to. Impaired driving is not socially acceptable. It never should have been, and it is not today, and we have to prevent that.
I got my drive from it. So I started as a police officer, but, in law enforcement, there are many paths, right? And I knew the first few months where my path was, because it was a pretty personal thing watching somebody die with you that was 16 years old that doesn't need to die because of somebody's poor choice. Yeah, like I was telling, yeah, as I was telling the director earlier before this, I said, I've almost made the whole circle. You know, I went from learning about it to experiencing it to now being a part of it and being the victim of it. I said, the only thing I haven't had and I don't want is the death part, right? That's why we're here today, is to prevent that part and the injury part for people. But through 24 years, you know, I've seen that whole entire circle. So. Okay.
You're also care. You know, you mentioned why it's important to be there. I think with the recovery process that you have, I mean, you could have taken the time to not do this, right? Just focus on recovery. Why is it important for you, in your own words, to take time even next week to be here to speak about this?
Yeah, again, most people hear about the deaths. They don't hear about the survivors, you know? That small stuff that you take for granted. You know, the first few weeks where it was like, oh, I'm just going to go out and cut the grass. Oh, that's right, I can't. My wife has to now. Well, who's still working full-time? Who still has to take care of things? I need a sock on my foot. Oh, I got to find which child or wife is around to do those small tasks. I can't do them. I mean, we're progressing now that we're 4 months out, you know, and you talk to, like, my physical therapist this last week, the best part of it is I've finally put my own sock on. You know, we take for granted the small things, and here I am with the small things that you don't think of in life interfering with you. So.
He's really good at putting a sock on.
Yeah. And those parts are tough, you know, watching them struggle with me. It's like, it wasn't my choice, it's not their choice, but we had to come together now as a team and try to figure it out. And I don't know. Now the conversation is, you know, am I going to fully heal? Am I coming back to work? Am I not? I mean, the unknowns are still there. So it's kind of the point of this is don't create those unknowns for other people, because I don't know what my future is, you know. I mean, our conversation earlier, I said I would love to have just gone for a little run. I'm just like, oh, that's right, I can't run anymore yet. I can't even jump. I can't do the basic little things that you see little kids do. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I only got one from Tim Harlow of the Star Tribune. He's watching online. He's wondering if you can describe what exactly happened in the crash, where it was, and what you remember about it, and also how old is Jacob?
Jacob is 18. So we were on a family vacation. We were on the last day of a week of four-wheeling and fishing at a buddy's cabin. We had just left dinner. We came off a four-wheeler trail onto a dirt road, which is still considered the four-wheeling trail. Jacob was driving. I was on the back seat, which is a two-seater. And as we were going on this roadway, there was a truck coming the other way. Jacob took the four-wheeler and pulled over to the grass area. I couldn't tell you if he was stopped or he was almost stopped, if not stopped. He was barely doing any speed, so he had pulled over to give the truck the right of way. And like I've seen in my career, these people that are impaired get so fixated on things that if he would have just kept on going with the curvature of the roadway, he would have just drove by us. Instead, he drove right into the side of us. So he impacted us on the left side of the four-wheeler. Last thing I remember is Jacob putting his arm up before getting hit by the truck. And then I remember sailing through the air, seeing the blue sky. And I remember making a comment to myself that I hope I come down on something soft. Then I impacted on the ground. I could hear can hear Jacob screaming. He had a huge laceration, an open wound to his arm that you could see all the way down to the bone. And I went to stand up to go to him and look down and realized that the truck that we had hit had removed my pants and my legs didn't work. The left side of my leg had 3 large lacerations on it. And later I found out that my femur had gone up and, like I said, broken my hip, which was keeping me from walking. So I drugged myself over to Jacob to comfort him. I started assessing his wound and trying to be calm for him. Another part of this is, I've been a medic with Woodbury for 14 years on top of being a police officer. So not only have I seen it and been on the other side of the ambulance, now I'm the guy going in the ambulance. And started the comfort care with Jacob, trying to get him to relax, even though he's screaming. My daughter showed up a little bit later with a buddy of mine who was on a different recreational vehicle. I had her tend to Jacob, put a tourniquet on his arm. I also had her doing police work.
She did phenomenal.
I started having her take photos. I told her, I said, hey, you're going to have a bunch of ambulances, police cars, things of that nature in here. And then I went into crime scene mode at the same time. So I had her take pictures of where the debris was, where the skid marks were of the truck, how he impacted us on the side. I was just trying to preserve that, knowing the long-term stuff from this job of what I've had to deal with. And progressing, we went to one little community hospital first. When we got brought to Duluth, he went into emergency. He went into emergency surgery, and then I got surgery the next day. Since then, all we've been doing is trying to recover. He's been my legs, and I've been his arms. So if he needs something, he has to go get it and bring it to me. So something as small as a jar of peanut butter, he's got to bring it to me so I could open it, because he can't rotate his arms. On the other side, I couldn't carry stuff because I can't walk over to get it. So it's a huge change. And now through the progression, it's been PT 2 times a week. We moved, like I said, out of the wheelchair to a walker. So if you see the video that they're going to be releasing in regards to my family thing tomorrow, you'll see that I'm in a walker. It was a struggle. I'd say pay attention to my left leg. You'll see how purple it was, how swollen it was. Only through PT have I been able to progress to get to walking. Today we're down to 1 crutch. That only happened probably a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. People don't realize what those are for milestones. I mean, next week we're talking about maybe putting the crutch aside and try walking without it, see how balance goes. But it's definitely a big change. I mean, you changed your whole house into being, we have shower chairs stationed in different places of the house because you walk 10 feet and I used to get winded. I'd have to sit down. Couldn't do anything on your own. It's a burden. I just try not to do that to somebody's family. If I can prevent one, then that's why we're here.
Or you're good? She's okay. Yeah, she needs her. I would say, and I said it in the video, it truly has been challenging to watch people that you love struggle. And just like you said, the day-to-day of a jar of peanut butter, socks. I can't stand cleaning, so he does most of the time. So I have been cleaning and cooking. Not a huge fan of cooking either, and he used to cook for us all the time, and I had to take that on for a little bit. Working full time, I think I work a little bit further away from our home. My husband worked closer. So for us, before the accident, we had a system, and he was able to, you know, prep for meals and make it easier at night to cook. But you realize how amazing your husband is when something like this happens, and you're doing it all. So I think Jaden has been an amazing support system for us. She's not a crier. We're all criers, but my husband and I, Jacob not so much, Jaden not so much, but she has been phenomenal in helping in every single second or minute that we need something. You know, I wanted to be here today to support not only my husband, but to be out here, and just to anyone that's watching, like, this has been incredibly hard. And I, you know, growing up when I was younger and I wanted to go out and do things and have fun, it's just not worth not finding someone else to drive you, or, you know, the amount of emotion and energy that's gone into trying to fix what's broken. I can't even put into words. So I just hope that somebody sees this and doesn't drive, and doesn't get behind a wheel to hurt somebody else. We are very blessed that my husband and my stepson did not leave this world, but it has not been easy getting everything back in order. It's day by day, and it's the little wins that matter now. But if anyone, like I said, can hear this and not do it, please don't do it. Any other questions for me? Yes, Kaylee Ranton. Yep, Kaylee, C-A-L-E-Y, Ranton, R-A-N-T-E-N.
And last question, I'm assuming there were charges brought against the person who hit you all. Do we know what those look like at all? Can we get that information later?
Yeah, it's still pending and going through the court. His next hearing that I'm aware of is in January, and last I got told is he got charged with 6 felonies. I guess one of the parts that I didn't say in the story was that after he hit us, he was nice enough to come over there and ask us what we needed for help, and then ignored us, and then got in his car and drove away, and left 2 of us laying in the ditch in our condition. So I just happened to get lucky that when I reached down, the parts of my pants that were left was the pocket that had a cell phone in it, and I was able to grab my cell phone and call 911, and, you know, here we are. So they did catch up to him a little after that. But
All right, well, thank you for being here this morning, and thank you for all of you that are watching online, and just drive safe this holiday season. Thanks.